Music heals. Listen. Jason Eastwood, Guitarfulness.com. From Johns Hopkins Center for Music and Medicine. According to a 2015 study, drumming can help improve the overall quality of life and mobility. Relaxing music can lower the production of cortisol, which lowers stress and in turn lowers elevated heart rates and blood pressure. Jason Eastwood, creator of Guitarfulness.com. Was it fate? Luck? A professional musician, been in the clubs, done the tours. What drives him forward now is background music for yoga, and the feedback is excellent. The music that I have heard you play, the sound is just really wonderful. It's soothing. It's calming. It's, well, I can't say enough nice things about it, except it felt really good to listen to. How's that?
I love that. I mean, music is really hard to describe. And I mean, this music, this kind of guitarfulness music that I came up with, actually while playing guitar for yoga classes, because I played all over the world in all kinds of different music, from rock, blues, jazz, classical. But this music, it kind of discovered me. It kind of started coming through when I was playing yoga. I got asked to play a bunch of concerts for yoga classes and yoga sessions. It's very meditative, and it uses the classical guitar, which has a really warm tone. And I really started to study after I started doing these yoga concerts, and I noticed this music was having a great effect on people. I started studying a lot of the healing types of music around the world and what makes great ambient, soothing music. And so, that all goes into it. I really tried to make it, I really fall into a space that's very meditative when I compose it and when I play it. And it seems to have the same effect on the people that listen to it.
When you decided to become a full-time musician, that's a tough choice. There are people who say, get a day job and then go out and do some shows and then see if it clicks. It isn't easy just to step out and say, this is my full-time job.
No, this is why I've been dealing with this just like every other musician my whole life, and I've had lots of other jobs along the way because I was a newspaper reporter and I had a magazine, and I've taught guitar and taught music on every level from high school to just private lessons, and I was actually an instructor at Dalhousie University for a while. So this it really, to me, it's not a choice. And this happened to me when I was, I first got into music when I just landed this. I used to play piano at my cousin's house, and I used to make up songs, and I loved the piano just to make up songs on it. My grandmother thought this was amazing because I was just making them up. But then I got a little acting role. Have you ever heard of the Canadian rock musician Burton Cummings? He played with
Yeah. I can't remember the name of the song, but
he's got songs like "Stand Tall" and "Break Them to Me Gently." Yeah. Their number one hit in the States was "American Woman." American Woman.
Okay. Yeah.
Anyway, so he's a big star from where I come from, in this city called Winnipeg, where he's from too. And they were doing a CBC, which is our national television station, was doing a documentary on him, like a story about him. And they wanted to recreate his birthday as a child. So they actually asked, my aunt was working there. She said, my nephew looks just like Burton Cummings would have at that age. And that was me. And so I got this role playing Burton Cummings at 6 years old. And I actually got to do a bunch of scenes with his mother, and he would teach me how to fake these songs on the piano, and I had to learn his songs. Like I learned a song of his anyway, just right off the record, so I could mime it during this skit that we did that ended up in the movie. And that was really my first music lesson, because I had to just mime this song exactly off the record. And that's when I started playing it. Just from then on, I wanted to play drums, but my parents got me a guitar, and that was it. I just knew Yeah,
I can see
they
why.
were,
I mean, like, oh, yeah, let's kind of choose a different direction.
absolutely, yeah. It was, and it turned out great because the guitar it became my lifelong passion, and I started playing it at 11. And yeah, it was just I never really looked back. But then all along the way, it's you hear, oh, what are you going to do for a living? You can't, your parents are like, you got to get a real job, blah, blah, blah. And luckily, I've made a pretty decent living. I mean, it's been struggle at times, but up and down, just like any other job, right? But I started teaching guitar in high school, and that was great. I never had to work any other jobs. I just started working in the local music store, teaching 60 students a week. And that's how I actually got really great at the guitar, because you don't learn anything. The way you learn something really good is you don't learn anything better than when you're teaching it, right? Because you really have to understand it. So that was a great start for me.
The
But it was never really a
testimonials.
choice.
The testimonials say a lot, because this is something, music is personal, and the things that appeal to each of us are unique. And you seem to have touched a chord, yeah, with the way that you play the guitar. It's there, it's very healing. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, and that's why I kept this going, because I started this guitarfulness, and I took that word from mindfulness because I thought it was kind of a unique word. So I started a site called Guitarfulness.com. I started a Facebook/Guitarfulness page, and I just started sharing some of these things I was playing for these yoga classes as meditations, as 20-minute songs that I record in my studio. And just the feedback I started getting was incredible, of people saying they listen to it in the morning, and they listen to it at night before they go to bed, and they put it on, and their pets are calm and their kids are calm, and it just they drive with it to work back and forth. So I started selling CDs, and now I've actually put out 33 albums of this type of guitarfulness music. I call it this soothing guitar, classical guitar music. And yeah, just some of the emails over the years I've gotten, like I've done this since 2018, and the style, and just the people in hospices. So there's a lady who did a bunch of meditations on top of this for a hospice, a couple of them actually in the United States. And then there's a healing center for children that adults that have lost children, people that have lost their children in their lives, and just how to heal from that. And they do some equine therapy there where they show them the horses, but the lady that runs it got a hold of me and said, can we play your music through the night as we're hanging with the horses, because the horses love it too,
Yeah.
and it's really healing for people and stuff like that. It just blows my mind.
Yeah.
And then just people on a general basis say that they, it's incredible letters that saved me and all kinds of stuff. I get these emails, and it just says, well, I'm obviously on the right path with this type of music, and I'm not going to stop putting it out because it's helping a lot of people.
Well, it is. It's amazing. And saw a little preview that you had on Instagram. I like your Instagram page too, but the preview you have is a cassette. It looks like a cassette, and voila, you open it up, and no, it isn't a cassette. It's a USB, and it's so convenient. And it's yeah, I love it. It's retro.
Yes. Well, now that I have so many albums out, like I have, it's 3 gigs, it's 33 albums of music. So I thought maybe I should start offering some people were asking me, can I get all your albums? And I do have a membership site where most of them are up there, but this one I just I took a bunch of rare albums that I also recorded that didn't release to many people, and put them together on this USB package. And the coolest thing is I got to give credit to these guys that I work with, Joel and Dan. They put my CDs together. They have a place called Ironstone Technologies here in Canada. And Joel came up with this. She showed me one day this cassette that folds out to a USB. And I love cassettes because I grew up with, that was my era in the 80s, just listening to cassette tapes. So I thought, this is super cool. So it's basically, it looks like an old cassette. Within it, it folds out as a USB. You just stick into your computer, and it comes in a cassette case. So that was just kind of a neat idea, I thought, to package it.
Absolutely. Well, and see, cassettes are, I'm very familiar. I have a couple of boxes of cassettes because I worked in radio, and that's how you did your audio tapes for your, air checks for your show. And a lot of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So it's just my trivia, but
Yeah, no, that's great. And yeah, I'm sure do you ever go back and listen to those?
Not recently, but yes, I have occasionally. And I need to be reminded that, yes, improvement is possible when you start very green and
Well,
work up to it.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
The reason I ask is because I have a bunch of those too, and I want to go back and listen.
Okay, it's fun just because when I first started in radio, I didn't have the same voice. And the just starting and hearing the difference, because you get people say, okay, here, do this and do that. And along the way, you incorporate some of those elements. And now I don't remember what it was like when I first had to make the shift. And so going back and hearing, it's like, oh, wow, this is, it changed. I don't sound like my relatives anymore.
Absolutely. Well, that's the same with music, right? And songwriting. I had a little 4-track recorder. Now, this was something that was pretty cutting edge at the time, maybe 1986. My guitar teacher had this tape recorder where you could record, say, it would split the tape into 4 tracks. So you could record a drum track, and then you could overdub a guitar, then overdub bass, and then overdub vocal.
Yeah.
So I thought, this is great. I can produce music in my little room, in my bedroom at the time, because I was 15 or whatever. So I got this thing, and I started really making. I got a bass and I got a drum machine. That's when I started producing and writing my own songs. And I still have that little 4-track in my parents' basement somewhere. I have a milk, one of those milk crates full of the cassette tapes from it. And I just really, I'd love to go through it and hear what I was doing back then. So I remember some of the songs were pretty popular with my friends and stuff, but I would just like to hear how I progressed.
And that's high tech back then. That was amazing.
It was super high tech, and it really taught me how to compose music and how to arrange music and layer up different instruments, and just, it was amazing. To me, it was like having $1 million studio, and that's all I did. I just worked on that thing all the time. I had my friends come over, and we'd all write songs and compose them, record them. So it was really fun.
When you were touring, you toured with some of the big name bands that people might be familiar with. Is there any one group that stands out?
Yeah, well, I toured with a band. I had my own band. It was called Disaster Man. And we were a rock band that did all original music. So we got in a lot of music festivals here. And we actually, we toured around different festivals. And we played a festival with the Beach Boys, which was incredible. And I got to meet them. And, well, it was Mike Love. It wasn't, he was the head of the Beach Boys then. He's kind of the cousin, not Brian Wilson wasn't with them, which is, he's my hero. But anyway, it was still cool. And then there was Journey and Boston. That was amazing because those are big time heroes of mine. And Eric Burden from the Animals. I got to play a show with him, and he is one amazing singer, even in his 70s, and a real gem of a man. And it was funny because they had these $1 million tour buses. Like Journey had this one that you could go in there, and each had a room that was, the size of a condominium with TVs and everything in there. And same with Boston. And we had this old 1976 school bus that we painted black and converted into an RV. And we're parked between Journey and Boston. And it's really funny because I'm like, these guys must think, like, what is this this bunch of riffraff between us here? But yeah, it was great. They were really, really, it was just really cool. They really kind of elevated, just to be around those guys. It elevates your desire to be a good musician.
When you were thinking about doing this full-time as a career and then shifting to being yoga background music, that's not the same as playing in a club.
No, and that's exactly kind of why I really embraced this, because, the touring was great. The festivals are good, but it's a really rough lifestyle, especially in playing in clubs and bars. Like, I like playing theaters and stuff, but you start, what really caught up with me was the drinking, and it was really getting out of control. And it was like, I drank a lot because of the anxiety of it too, and just to control that. My life was just kind of like really spiraling, actually, out of control, even though it seemed great. I was a university professor in the school year, and I was touring all summer and playing great gigs, but I just, something wasn't right. So I went in, I started taking a meditation class And then a friend of mine suggested I try out yoga. And I thought, okay, I don't really do any workouts or anything. I need something like that. So I went, and I was just captured by the whole flow of it, and the silence, and the meditative properties, and the way the breathing is. I thought, this is something I could do. So I started going back, and at this time I was trying to think of how I didn't want to tour anymore either. So I started playing more classical guitar gigs and things like that. And the owner of the yoga studio said, "Hey, you're that guitar player. I recognize you from around town, etc. Would you like to play for this class, for our yoga classes?" I said, "Some live guitar." And I said, "Sure." So I started playing some live classes. I just called them little mini concerts as people were doing yoga. And this music just started flowing through me, this new I was just composing a lot of it on the spot. Like I'd go in there with the kind of ideas and then just let it flow and let it organically kind of come out of me. So I've always been kind of an improviser. Improvising comes pretty easily to me. And that's when I started getting all these reactions I was talking about earlier. Like people were saying this is the most relaxing guitar in the world, etc. And it really set me on a path with this guitarfulness healing music. But when I started studying this healing music around the world and healing arts like Ho'oponopono from Hawaii, it really transformed me, right? Like it really gave me something new to express myself musically, and that was like more of a, I don't know, just like not the hectic craziness of the music industry. And that's why I started the site, and I've just been connecting with people with this music. And I still produce a lot of rock music and singer-songwriter stuff, and I'll do those gigs now and then. But it was good to get out of that lifestyle and transition into this, and it just kind of happened so naturally. I know you talk about a lot of paranormal things on this show, and it was just kind of like the universe guiding me in this decisions,
Jason Eastwood, Guitarfulness.com. A quick break. Guitarfulness.com. Continuing with Jason Eastwood.
When you do the yoga, when you do meditation, and you follow hunches and intuition and synchronicities, there's a feeling in your body. You become, I think, more, in some ways, grateful, and in other ways, just happy and peaceful. And when you're in that space and doing your whatever creative element you are doing, there is a different sense of being, of wellness, of just, maybe the word for it is contentment. And you produce a different kind of music with that.
Absolutely. That's 100% correct. And you have to be in that space to get the good music, no matter if it's, what kind of song music it is. Like, I believe kind of like, Keith Richards says the songs are all just in the air, and you just kind of have to be that antenna. And you just pick these things up. Like even the music with this guitarfulness music, when I sit down and write it, it just kind of comes through me. Like I don't feel like I'm the one who's doing it. I don't. It's hard to put. You write it, even if I write a song, I'm like, this isn't really me. This is just me channeling something.
Yeah.
And being open to that. And the way you become open to that is you just have to get into yourself deeply, and you have to release a lot of old things that may be blocking you, but also fill the new space up, empty your space so you can fill that space again with gratitude. And then that gratitude turns into inspiration. And that's where the music kind of comes from. I mean, every great songwriter in the world, any great composer would tell you that they have no idea. Like, it's not really a logic thing when you come up with the great songs or the great ideas. That's just being in the right space in the right time. So it's all about being open and in that right space. And during meditation and yoga, you can really get to that. I find more. Sometimes I used to use alcohol to do the same thing, because you become unconscious. You're kind of going below consciousness. So sometimes that would work. And honestly, like, there's some shows I played when I was like pretty almost blackout drunk that I look back and I think that's pretty amazing, because I don't really remember it. But that's not sustainable. That's not healthy, and that's not good. So I found that there's a way better way to do that, and your ideas, or you can capitalize on your ideas a lot more through yoga, meditation, and just having a kind of a spiritual practice.
Well, it's being present. It's being present. For when you were saying about the anxiety earlier, what you're doing with the alcohol or whatever substance is trying to distance yourself from the judgment, from the critical, and that critic, whether it's internal, external, that's basically the monkey on your back going, you can't, you're not good enough, this isn't, there's something wrong, where that's what the substance tries for most people, to numb and distance. And when you get away from that to go to, what I'm doing is what I love, and I really enjoy this, and it doesn't matter what anybody else says, if they like it or if they don't, this is so cool. And so that's what I hear from you, is that this is so cool, it's such a wonderful place or space to be in, that then you don't need the substance.
Yes, you're absolutely correct. That's a huge part of it. It was for me anyway. And what I was talking about was letting go of things, because it's like that judgment, and then there's a lot of, I feel like there was a lot of unresolved emotions in me that just, you stick down by, you don't deal with the feelings that come up when you're trying to just numb it with alcohol too, right? Or any kind of drug or substance, food, because any addiction. And if you get rid of that, when I got rid of the drinking, I said, well, I'm going to have to deal with these feelings. So I have to sit through, and sometimes it's very uncomfortable, but it's you just sit down and let them be. And it's almost like you give them permission to live and to let go. And then they eventually get out of you, and then all that stuff is gone. And then you're in that free state that you were just talking about. Yeah, and free of judgment. Right?
Yeah, to me, it's like it's a constant fight. Once that is no longer something you need to fight, it's like, yeah, that's the way it is. That's what I did. It was stupid. I'm over it.
Absolutely.
Okay,
absolutely.
All right, fine. Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. And then, and you also, what I came to realize is just like, well, we, and all of us, I believe, are different people all the time. Like, I mean, there's something in the past. It's like, well, I was a different person back then. Like, I'm not going to let this haunt me. That was our cells and our body are changing over every 7 years or something. We're entirely new cell forms. So it's like,
when I was a kid,
like
the number 7, you're bringing that up. Every night I would go to bed and think of the worst things I had done. And I had this little list. This was dumb. That was dumb. So before I would go to sleep, I would put the little box out and remind myself of the dumb things I did, probably between 7 and 9. And about somewhere in there, I decided that was not a good thing to go to sleep on. And I was going to get rid of my little box and stop torturing myself. But that's as a kid, you think kids don't think big thoughts. Well, I was really full of big thoughts that were toxic. And so, anyway, you said 7. I thought, well, I'll share this little tidbit here of, self-torture.
I hear you. Yeah, that's good.
One was singing in public, and I blew it. I was. You couldn't even hear me on the first row because my voice immediately went, ee! And so I was traumatized by that, thinking I'll never ever sing again because I am rotten and that is awful. So there you go. Just so you can feel better about yourself.
Wow.
I started early.
Yeah, I totally get that. It took me a lot of time to get over playing guitar in public, because I screwed up a couple times, and singing. It's a whole different thing too. I'm still trying to get comfortable with that. But that's, it happens to a lot of people like that. And and number 7, I'm totally number 7. I was born on the 7th, so I'm always been a big 7 person myself.
Oh, me too. 7 March 7th for me.
Oh wow, and May 7th.
Taurus. You're Taurus. I'm Pisces. Wow. How cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's awesome.
When you're 33 albums, I mean, that's a lot since 2018. You're prolific. Yeah.
Well, like I get it, and that's what I do. I work on music. I play music. I record music, and that's what I feel my purpose is here and to do. And I have it no other way. It's great. So, and I have a monthly membership site. For that, I give people a new album each month I'd like to present to them. So I'm always working on something new, and I love it.
Okay, so for anyone who wants to connect with you, do you teach guitar lessons?
Not really. I'm working on I have a course that I want to put out of guitar, but I do teach the odd lesson here and there.
Mm-hmm.
But I focus more on producing music and just recording my own right now. Like I focus on the Guitarfulness.com site. That's what I'm focusing on.
And the albums that I've got on the list I have is One Guitar, Majestic Skies, Resonating Earth, Singing Tibet. That's cool at 432 hertz.
Yeah, that one Singing Tibet at 432 hertz. I don't know if you've heard of that. That's kind of like known as the universal healing tuning, because this is you could have a whole podcast on this. The tuning that we use a lot in modern music is called 440, and that's kind of like it was regulated by the music industry back in whenever recording started, or I don't know, maybe it's actually when they built pianos. I can't remember the whole history of it. There's lots of conspiracy theories about it. But 432 is more of one that divides into frequencies that the earth hums at, etc. And there's ancient singing bowls have been discovered at 432 hertz, etc., which is like, it's just an A note, but you tune to it and that's it. So for that album, Singing Tibet at 432 hertz, I actually got a bunch of the singing. Tibet has these singing bowls, which is, I don't know if you've seen those before. You can just rub a wand across the top and you get like a wine glass. They start doing this tone. So I actually recorded a bunch of those, and then I played guitar on top of it, and it was pretty cool. It came out pretty well, and people seem to like it.
Yes,
it was a fun experiment.
I have those. They also have the crystal bowls that have that too. Mine are the metal bowls.
Yes, yeah, there's the metal ones are great too.
So
those are fun.
When you are in the zone, is there a time that this is a difficult question to ask, that is transcendent, that you are not really you're just, like you said, you feel like you're channeling, but are there certain times when everything just melts away and you're flowing?
That happens a lot. And not a lot. It's happened to be a lot because I've been playing for 35 years, 40 years almost, like the guitar. And so that's happened to me a few times when I was performing, when I'm like, it's out of body. I see myself on the stage and I'm playing a guitar solo, and I'm kind of like witnessing it. And that's happened a few times. It's been very special. And I almost thought that was a dream when that happened to me. And then there's a few times when I've been recording, like I recorded this first Guitarfulness song called Ole. I was kind of tranced out. And I don't know. I put all these mantras around my studio, like these Ho'oponopono mantras, and I just kind of got into this space where it's just like, it was like I was watching. This happens a lot, but I remember that one clearly because I was just kind of like sitting back, like almost like somebody who wasn't me, watching my fingers play. Yeah. And I thought, wow, that is so. It was just an incredible experience, and then I got a great response for that album. That's kind of launched this whole Guitarfulness thing. So I thought, wow, like that's very transcendent. And that's, there's probably lots of times I can't remember because I'm just practicing my guitar and I look up and 2-3 hours gone. So it transcends time. There's nothing that gets you more into the present moment, I don't think, on the earth than playing music and being there for that music right in that moment, with every note and every second, because you're lost in it, and it just crosses dimensions. It's unbelievable.
Your guitar is custom made, correct?
Yeah, the one main classical guitar that I play, it's called a Kono because it was made by a luthier, which is a guitar maker from Japan called. His name was Misiro Kono. And he passed away in 1998. But he made this guitar, and it was actually purchased first by the director of guitar studies at Dalhousie University, Doug Reach, in 1978 when it was made. And he was one of the best classical guitar players in the world. I think he finished second in the Guitar Foundation of America's competition back in the 80s. And he toured around with it, and great masters like Oscar Ghiglia from Italy played it. And he wanted to sell it to me, wanted me to have it. And I thought that was so special. The incredible thing about, talk about cosmic, the universe hooking you up in a great way, was when I went out to Halifax on a whim. I was done with touring again here at this time. And my girlfriend wanted to go to a university out there. So I lived in British Columbia, which is across the country. Canada's huge, so that's like 4,000 kilometers away. Or, I don't know how many miles that is, but a lot. And anyway, I flew out there, and he said, I played some classical guitar for them at Dalhousie. He said, "You're in." And I just knew this guy was going to be an amazing teacher for me, because he just had this aura about him, and I could learn a lot from him in the lessons. So the first lesson, it turns out that he's actually from the exact same neighborhood that I grew up in 20, 30 years earlier in Winnipeg, this neighborhood called Garden City. And, Canada's a huge country. What are the odds? So,
Wow.
That was another amazing cosmic moment.
I just know that instruments are important too, and they also have their own energy. And to me, it sounds like that is also a very strong part of that.
Absolutely. And I always tell the yoga folks, because I play a lot of hot yoga rooms, and they say, "How does this guitar stay in tune?" And actually, this guitar was made at least partially out of Amazon rainforest, Brazilian rosewood, some of it. So I don't think you can do that anymore, of course, because they want to preserve that wood. But this was made in the 70s. And I think it's got that jungle vibe to it, but it doesn't mind the heat because it stays in tune perfectly. It sounds great in there.
It probably feels like home. It's like, oh, thank goodness, finally.
Absolutely, yeah, it's back home, yeah.
Well, I appreciate you taking time to talk with me, and I really enjoy your music. So, I also appreciate the fact you put lots of samples for people to hear, because once you hear it, then you want to hear more. And so then the 33 albums would be very conveniently in that little packaged cassette to have, to plug in wherever you go.
If you want to just try a free song, you just go to my site, guitarfulness.com. You can put in your email, and I'll send you a song and see if it's something that you like. And go from there.
Get started and get hooked. Well, thank you. I appreciate your time.
Sure.
Anything else you want to add before we sign off?
No, I just had a great conversation with you, Wendy, and I appreciate you having me on. This was it was really quite enlightening. I had a great time, so thank you.
And I'll put links in the description for the show so you can check out his site. Jason Eastwood and Guitarfulness.com. Thanks for listening.